So for my product, I wanted to do a lot of research into it before I just went straight in. So I set up a bit of a format research where I looked at already existing music videos, and I sort of wrote down what I saw, the conventions of them, the way that they were filmed, the sort of style, the shot transitions. I looked at all those things across a diverse range of music genres rather than just looking at one specific type. So rather than just looking at pop music, I sort of looked at a different range of them just to see what the general kind of ideas were that people were using in their music videos. That helped me a lot when it came to making my own, because I could then see what was already existing and sort of use it in my own, sort of interpret it in my own way for my own video. It helped me a lot thinking about the types of settings I wanted to use, the mise-en-scène and the lighting I wanted to use. Or it sort of just acted as like an influence to me. It's sort of like something I looked to when I was stuck for ideas. I also set up an online questionnaire. I did it online because I felt it meant getting responses was a lot easier and a lot quicker, because handing out paper questionnaires means you have to find people who are willing to do it. Whether it's online, it's much more accessible and easier for people to do it. And it also meant that I could get a more diverse range of feedback from different people, because handing out paper questionnaires, in reality I probably would have just asked my friends, because they're the easiest, most accessible to me group of people that I could ask. Whereas doing it online, I was able to post it on Twitter and Facebook, and I got a whole range of people that I don't necessarily talk to answer for me, and that meant that I had a really good different viewpoints from different people and different things. So my feedback was a lot more reliable. It meant that when I was actually making the video, I had a more direct, concise way of looking at it. It also meant that doing it online, I was easier to copy and paste answers and put in the numbers to make pie charts, and that was just so much easier. And when you have paper, you have to do it all manually. That was going to be time consuming and can be quite confusing. I could input the wrong numbers, that sort of thing. And doing it online just meant that everything was going to be much more precise and therefore much more reliable. And it just felt for me that was probably, and my audience, was just going to be a whole much easier process than handing out paper things which could get lost and everything like that. It was good to get them to respond to what the music videos they wanted to respond to. The questions I asked were quite broad. I didn't want to narrow them down too much, because that just made my life way more difficult if I have really, really narrow questions. So having quite broad questions where the people could relate them to themselves, and audiences know what they respond to. They already know music videos. They can respond to them in a really confident way, and that meant that all of my feedback was confident, and people knew what they were trying to say, and they knew what they wanted and what they didn't want from a music video. So when I was planning mine, I would look at my feedback and I would say, right, they want this sort of thing, but they don't want that. And it just meant that the whole process for me making the video just became a whole lot easier. My video challenges conventions of music videos because there's no real narrative to it. I know a lot of music videos currently have some kind of narrative to it, a storyline, but I didn't want to do that. In my feedback, the people said that they liked videos with narratives, but I thought I would go against that because I wanted to sort of change people's ways of thinking. So rather than having a storyline and then watching it and just going, oh, it's a storyline, they could watch something and they could have their own storyline, and they could sort of make it up in their head. They could have something, like the video would be a bit more personal to them because they have their own interpretation of it. In terms of my ancillary task, I actually did a lot of format research for that as well. I looked at a whole load of different album covers in websites in particular, because I wanted mine to be as reflective of current industry-made things as I possibly could. And I did a lot of looking around my house and just looking at different CDs and looking at the barcode, the positioning of the songs, how the front and back coincide with each other, and all the writing and that on the bottom. And I also looked a lot online at current artists and artists of the same genre of the song that I had used for my video, and just looking at the general influences that they all took from. The thing that challenges conventions on my ancillary tasks is my website is actually really different from the sort of theme and atmosphere of my video. My video is all home movie, kind of, things like that, and my website I actually thought looked really contemporary and quite modern, and I had a few people say that to me. But I actually really liked how it turned out. I thought that it came out really well, and although it does challenge conventions because they're not similar, and usually what I found from format research was all of the album cover and the website and the video of their artist's recent single all linked together. They all had the same colour scheme, they all had the same, general theme to them, whereas I wanted to do something a bit different. I wanted something that a wider audience was going to like. So if I was to do the website and the album cover like a home movie style, I felt that was really going to narrow and seclude my audience to that people who like that sort of music. And I thought that actually doing something different was going to change that and actually open up a whole load of audiences. It does follow conventions, especially the website. All the websites I looked at were really heavily focused on the social media aspect. So, they'd always have the links to the Twitter and the Facebook and the YouTube and all those sorts of things. And I included that in my own website because that's how I wanted it to look realistic, I also put a link to the latest single, the video that I'd made, and the album cover, because I saw from my format research that that's actually what a lot of artists do nowadays as well. And I think it turned out really well. I thought that going a little bit different, doing something a little bit different was quite successful. I think that it does follow conventions. It kind of develops on them in the idea that all the font, the typeface, the font is the same. So, the album cover and the website, all of the font types are the same. And I just wanted that to be, it was more of a fluid thing. It was more, you could see the relationship between the two. It wasn't like just completely off the wall, it wasn't completely random. And I made up some quotes from Twitter and put them on the homepage because I finished it and I found this massive gap in the middle, and I thought, what am I going to fill it with? There's nothing really I can put on there because I don't have any personal pictures of the artist and I don't want to plagiarise and copyright other people's images. So I just ended up coming up with some random tweets that I just made up, and thought that I took it from the artist's website herself. The most recent thing I noticed on her website when I looked was that she had this page where different tweets would pop up from different fans on her website saying what they thought about her album. And I thought that was really nice. And the idea behind my website is obviously I can't make it like that, but it would update itself continuously, so it would have different people's tweets on there. And I just thought that was a really nice idea, and I wanted to sort of, put that in my own personal way for my website. I think they are all apparent that they're the same product, especially the album cover and the website. They're very tight-knit in how they look. They're both very similar in their contemporary feel. In comparison with the video, they're very different. I did that on purpose. It doesn't look like I did, but I did because I wanted it to be, when you see an album cover in a shop, you're drawn immediately by the image on the front. And I didn't want to do something that was kind of home movie because I felt that was going to be just, lost in, if you saw it in a shop, you'd just kind of be lost among all the other album covers, because the idea of a home movie is very basic. And I wanted something that was really going to catch people's attention. I do feel that they are apparently the same thing. I use the sort of same idea, the idea of nature, link the two together. In the video it was really heavily focused on nature and things like that, so I felt that the album cover and the website should be reflective of that. So that's where the flowers and the leaves, all of those kind of washed out images in the background came into the idea, and the birds and things like that. I think they work well together. I think, people can put them together and realise they're the same thing. I think one thing that maybe if I was going to do it again, I would maybe take a still shot from the video and maybe use that as an album cover, and then people would be able to relate to it to much more. If they'd seen the video, they'd recognise the shot from the video used for the album cover. So it'd be a lot more relatable to audiences, to be, in retrospect, I understand that. But I do feel that they do work well together. I think the differences is quite nice. Audience feedback on the ancillary tasks were all relatively positive. I didn't really have anyone say they didn't like anything in particular. So people said that they liked the photo, it looked good, and they thought that the way I'd used the editing looked really nice. And I got a comment of someone saying they thought that maybe I should put the front image in black and white to be reflective of the back of the album cover. But I actually decided that, no one else had really suggested it, although it was a good point, I did try it out, but I just felt that the black and white image on the front didn't stand out enough to me. It wasn't striking enough, and so I decided against it. You know, it was a good comment. I did try it out, but personally, I felt that the black and white just made it look really bland, and it wasn't gonna be vibrant enough, and it wasn't really going to be reflective of the video. That was the most important thing. If I put the whole thing in black and white, that goes completely against the idea of the happy music video. So I just thought that wasn't really going to be an option. With the ancillary tasks in particular, I did a different range of drafts. I didn't just stick with one photo and just change it. I decided to do a couple of different photos that all looked completely different from each other, just so that people had a choice. People could say what they liked about one thing or what they didn't like, and then I could sort of mix and match and put them together to get the best of. I learned something quite interesting from the audience feedback, actually. The idea of the song is called Now Is the Start, and I hadn't really thought about it until someone pointed out that it's kind of like the whole nature theme of the video is like now is the start, it's the start of spring, flowers growing, it's the start of something new. I hadn't thought about that before, and that actually made me really happy that people were having alternative ideas and alternative views. People weren't just watching it and all thinking the same thing. People were watching it and they were having their own interpretations of it, and I thought that was really interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way, so that kind of opened it up a lot more to when I started editing it again, re-editing it, the sort of things I could add in. So that's when the birds and the trees came in and that sort of thing, and it all linked in really nice with the video, actually, and it was kind of coincidental that all happened, but it definitely happened in my favour.